Wham bam, thank you, Sam. That's right. Kobe just got home. He's in the other room. Not going to be making it on the show, but did want to use his name in the intro. It's Hotline League episode 73. It's so great to be here with all of you because we did miss last week, and it was really unfortunate. And I had a great time. It was really relaxing. We just talked about Game of Thrones. I wasn't worried about it. Anyway. Oh, Kobe just said I heard that in the Twitch chat. He heard we summoned him. Anyway, this is episode 73 of Hotline League, as I mentioned. Mark and I were a little late because he and I have had a crazy day. He's going to get into that in a little bit. As he scarfs down what looks to be a sandwich or a burrito. What is that?
It's a wrap. It's from Chomp.
It's a rat?
A wrap?
Okay. You wrapped up a rat. Anyway.
A Chipotle avocado wrap. It's really good. I recommend Chomp to anyone who lives in Santa Monica area. It's delicious.
Did you get it delivered or did you stop by there?
Delivered.
Kelby, or no, not Kelby. Peter really likes Chomp.
Yeah.
And I think Kelby probably eats a lot too because it's near his office. I've had it many times, yeah.
Whoa, did you just leak his office location?
I said it's near his office. It could be like within a 1 mile radius. His office is in Santa Monica, everyone. Go show up at his place. Anyway, I want to give a quick shout out to Alienware here at the start of the show. We're going to be running, I hope, something that we produced for that in a little bit. I'm going to message somebody right now and say, can we air this right now on Hotline League? So hopefully we'll be able to show this cool little video that we made regarding Alienware and Intel later on in the episode. If not, I'll figure out a way to put that out there. Anyway, oh, and I need to turn off the little dings. That's right. Sorry, we were rushing to get the show going, and I've got the dings on for when people subscribe. I really appreciate it when people subscribe, but people don't appreciate it whenever the dings are going during the show, so I apologize, especially if you're listening to the audio version of the show, and you're like, why is that happening? Anyway, how you been, Mark?
Terrible.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Why has it been terrible?
All right, so... season ends. You get like a week off. During that time,
no, the season ends in a couple weeks.
Excuse me, split ends.
Oh, I was talking about Game of Thrones.
Hilarious. Split ends. I come home. There's a bunch of stuff going down offline TV. You probably saw Edison quit.
Was he quit or did you force him out? Because I know that's what you like to do, Mark. I know you just.
Listen, I've been watching a lot of Game of Thrones.
Jet told me Jet told me it wasn't his decision to leave. It's just.
Have you noticed how people just keep disappearing around me?
Yes, that's true. I've noticed that.
It wasn't like he outright quit himself and like just decided to quit on us. It was like a mutual thing where he did his 30-day stream and he came back and he's like, I want to do full-time content creation. And it was like, okay, well, how can we still use you if you're doing that? Is there any way where this works? And
yeah, we should say, by the way, Edison, who worked at Offline TV with Mark, that's who we're discussing. Nice guy who watched he was over here last night watching Game of Thrones with me and Kobe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, it was like a mutual decision. That took up that week. And then the following week, which was last Monday, that's when shit like started, just like everything kept happening. So like, that's when Josh had to go in at 9 a.m. for like his eye surgery. So I had to start waking up for that like pretty early. And this is like a week before MSI. So like I want to start flipping my sleep schedule over. And my family comes out to visit me during this week. And they will like early breakfasts. I keep having to like meet up with my cousins who also live around LA.
We go up to Newark. I didn't get a chance to meet the fam.
Yeah, I didn't want to introduce them to you. We go up to NorCal. I'm like traveling, trying to like make my sleep schedule inverse, but my family, obviously I'm trying to spend time with my family too. So I'm getting up at like 10 a.m. every day, 9 a.m. every day to like eat breakfast and do stuff with them. And then I get home from it. Now my brother comes out on Friday and my parents leave on Saturday. So there's a swap where I stop spending time with my family and start spending, or with like my parents and start spending with my brother. And then during that time, he went to Yosemite last night. He borrowed my car and I was like, finally, after a week, I'm going to get a breath of fresh air. I'm going to be able to try and fix my sleep schedule. And that's like when Josh's eyeball explodes. And then this morning I have to wake up after sleeping for like 3 hours to try and like fix my sleep schedule. And like, I am just so. I am the literal opposite of what my sleep schedule was supposed to be. 2 nights ago, I fell asleep at 3 a.m., which is when the broadcast was supposed to start before all the random MSI stuff happened. So like, I've been super busy. It has not been time off at all the way it should have been time off. And I'm not. I just feel like shit every day because my sleep schedule is just so bad.
And we should say, by the way, why? Because some people are saying, "What do you mean fix your sleep schedule? Waking up at 10 a.m. and that kind of thing." Why are you trying to adjust your sleep schedule right now?
So what I mean is MSI is coming up, everybody. If you didn't know, that's going to be in Vietnam, and the broadcast, because we're out doing it out of LA, is going to be at midnight, the earliest, or starting at 3 a.m., which means I need to be up until 10 a.m., usually just working. The fact that I am going to bed currently when the broadcast starts and waking up when it ends means my sleep schedule is as bad as it could possibly be. So I'm in a bit of a pickle here.
Well, I'm sorry, my friend. It sounds like you've had a tough time. I didn't even know you were up in Northern California or anything like that. We haven't really talked.
Yeah, I went to Hearst Castle.
Oh yeah, I did see that picture. Yes.
Yeah.
I did. That was a great photo shoot you did, by the way.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I'm just I'm pretty tired. I have this tonight. Gonna have to try and stay up all day. My brother comes back tomorrow from Yosemite. I'm gonna need to spend more time with him. I have an offline TV meeting tomorrow night, and then MSI I think starts tomorrow night too. And my brother's around Wednesday, which I'm going to spend with him, so I'm gonna get no sleep. And then, yeah, he leaves on Thursday. So this was like my one day to maybe try and get my sleep working, and just.
I'm sorry.
And that's what I'm eating right now because I don't give a fuck. This is the only time I can eat, or I woke up at 7 trying.
I mean, I'm sure you give a fuck. You care about the show and the viewers. It's just like this is a unfortunate thing you can't.
Priority thing in my life right now. Talking to you.
Well, it's great to be on a Hotline League with Mark this week.
Dude?
Well, how's my week? My week has been okay. It's mostly been getting ready for Vietnam. Brodin and I leave on Thursday, and we're going to be actually in the Hanoi area for several days before, because we're only doing groups, so we're not doing plans. So which I'm happy now, extremely happy we're not doing plans now, considering the schedule change. That would have been terrifying. Anyway, we go on Thursday, but we're going to be in Hanoi for a couple days and maybe explore around a bit before we come back. So we're headed out there early, but I had to figure out a bunch of stuff. Have to get a visa, have to just get some personal stuff in order back home and all that before I head out. And working on some other projects I can't really talk about yet, but it has been good.
That's cool. This weekend's been pretty crazy. There's so much to talk about even outside League. 2 franchises that have been running up for like 10 plus years-ish.
Yeah.
Have like their kind of climaxes almost in the same weekend. Is like, what? How's this happen?
Yeah, it's pretty sick actually. I thought it was really fun, and I enjoyed both of the products. We didn't have to talk about them on the show, but I enjoyed both Game of Thrones and Endgame this week. So it was just great.
Plus, we didn't do an episode last week because we didn't feel like there was that much to talk about. Now we have MSI schedule change, this Riot news. There's something else too that I can't remember that happened in the league scene. What was it? I need to go back to the top threads of the week on the league.
There's several different things. Yeah, that's what I usually do. I just sort by the past week. The TF Blade ban.
Yeah, that's what it was. The TF Blade ban.
Which I know you are a very big.
It was like very vocal about it. Like it's so dumb. It's like kind of fun to talk about.
Yeah, I felt bad for him, although I knew that it would get resolved because I could not imagine a world where like TL, and once Steve said he's going to look into it. See, TL and Twitch have so much business that like he can escalate it high enough that some.
Oh, there's the Echo Fox racism thing too.
Oh, yep. Rick Fox.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so much shit happened this week. It's actually
it's all this crazy drama. Now, what's interesting is I don't know how much of it we can actually like have strong discussions about on the show, because a lot of it is just like, okay, well, there's that Echo Fox thing. We don't really know the full story or what the deal is there.
It feels like everything is either so black and white that it's hard to take the other side, or it's so gray it's hard to like have an opinion.
Yeah, and we're not saying, by the way, that like the Echo Fox issue is like obviously racism is but the problem is we only know a couple of details about it, and we don't know if Rick is staying or what's happening or who was involved or what the context is. It's just sort of, it's weird because it's just, I mean, I just hope Rick doesn't leave the league, because I actually think his presence in the LCS is fantastic. So hopefully he doesn't. He doesn't leave.
Yeah.
Anyway, the other thing I was thinking about doing. So I was supposed to do a show or a video this week where I talked to you about this, right? Where I ranked the teams by their value, because I know the salaries for each of the teams now.
Oh, we do?
So it was given to me a list of the total salaries for each of the teams, not including their budget, or sorry, not including bonuses, or if there's equity packages. I don't know if there's equity packages or anything like that, but just like the flat salaries all added to one. So I don't know the individual players or whatever. So
right, but this is public information, or
No.
is this like under NDA?
No.
Talk about it.
Well, it was not given to me under NDA. It was just given to me. But I'm like 98% certain about it. But I'm not interested in leaking the salary numbers.
Why not, dude? Think about the clicks.
Well, we've got 500 viewers right now because I fucked up and didn't.
Oh, fuck. I don't mean on this show, dude. I mean like
Doing the video? Yeah.
in 2 weeks when MSI is done and people care more about their regions again, then drop that shit.
Should I wait for it? So I was okay. Regardless, I don't want to release the actual numbers now. A bunch of people are gonna get pissed off because they're listening to this, and then you're kind of convincing me not to do it on the show. But I don't want to release the actual numbers because I just like that's just not who I like. That's just not what my content is. It's kind of like not. But
yeah, you were never a real reporter.
Yeah, I mean that's so Reddit would tell me. But I do think an interesting thing to do would be because one conversation that I have tried to have going on this show and in other content is people only care about the results, right? That makes sense. I don't expect that to change, but people are like, what team sucked? What did a great job of building this roster? Who's got like the best players, et cetera, et cetera. But what people always ignore in the off season is the like certain teams make different decisions based around different budgets, right? So we all know TL did really well building this roster, but they also, it's a meme, but also likely true that TL spends the most money. Whereas, like, should we be congratulating like a FlyQuest or a Golden Guardians or an Echo Fox for doing really well while spending I don't know the actual numbers off my head, but if let's say they spent like half or a third of what TL spent, should we be, so anyway, the whole point is the video I was thinking about doing was ranking the teams based off of their cost effectiveness, as in you can basically take the salary that they spent and divide it by the number of wins they got to determine how cost effective or valuable or whatever their roster was. So for instance, TL is not number one on the list because Loco said I was a softball interviewer. All right, whatever. Loco can go watch my Chopper interview and then tell me I'm a softball interviewer.
Hey man, Loco asked a lot of hard hitting questions. If you haven't noticed, he's getting all those big interviews with people in the scene where.
You were in focus before, and then you started messing with your...
Well, so it was on manual focus, and it wasn't quite focusing up, so I switched to autofocus, and now it's all over the place, and I need to figure it out.
Yeah, always go manual, because otherwise it can't, especially in the bullet. Anyway.
Yeah, so I went to manual, and now figuring it out. Yeah, I just felt like flaming Loco a little bit.
Yeah, so for the people that are listening to the podcast or the YouTube video, that's somebody in the chat was asking me about Loco claiming I was a softball interviewer, but...
Aren't you guys on better terms now since he's been on the show?
Yeah, we are on better terms. I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with him like that.
Is it good enough that you guys can handle some banter?
Yes. And I mean, here's the thing: is I don't take offense at Loco for saying that because I'm sure he's just bantering, and I don't take offense in general. The reason why I responded to that is because people watch like a week 7 double lift interview where we're just joking around about what's going on and his relationship with the players and stuff and go, you know, that Travis Gafford, he's such a softball. He doesn't ask the real questions. You know, why isn't he grilling people? But then they don't go watch my interview with Chopper where I'm like, hey, what's the deal with the diversity issues at LCS? Why, like, is it true that 100 Thieves boycotted the owners meeting? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I don't want to watch a Chopper interview. That looks boring. And so then they call me a softball interviewer. Anyway, my whole point is...
Did you title the video, Chopper Denies Allegation of blah, blah, blah? Or even better, Riot Denies, you know...
I am just so... Like, people claim I'm very clickbaity. That stuff I feel like
you're
is...
terrible at clickbaiting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to... I think that's just so over the top. You know, so I know that that's a title option for that interview, but it's so over the top that I want to do it.
You saw that Foxdrop tweet from like 3 months ago, right?
No, what was it?
Let me try and look
wait,
it up.
the thing about where he talked about like the difference in his views and the growth on his channel and that stuff.
Yeah, he said like
Is
he
this
used to
clickbaiting?
not clickbait, and in 1 month he started clickbaiting, and his watch time and revenue doubled.
Yes, I mean
And it's like-
I have definitely tried to do more clickbaity stuff on the YouTube channel while also not feeling like an asshole. So
It's like being a lawyer and being like, I don't want to represent bad people or who might be guilty. It's like, well, sometimes you got to. So sometimes you just gotta clickbait
regardless, I think
if you
saying
want that money.
Riot denies allegations or whatever I think that's a little too much. But anyway, my whole point is eventually I will, and probably not on the show now that you made the point that I could just wait till after MSI. I will probably release a video where I'm basically saying, look, which teams had the most success per dollar. TL, for instance, is not at the top. And so I think it's just a different way to look at the success of the teams. Because if you built a roster for a third of what somebody else built, and then you barely underperform them, or in some cases you overperform them, I think that's an interesting conversation to have, and I think it's important. Anyway, that's the other thing I've been thinking about doing this week.
Cool. Sounds fun.
Somebody says, tell us who's the worst. 100 Thieves. Nobody should ever consider that there's any chance that it would be anybody other than 100
Last
Thieves.
place team
Yeah.
with star players.
Yeah.
Probably not the cheapest.
Yeah.
I'd imagine someone like Optic is pretty good, right?
Well, I'll do the video at some point in time.
Okay. Yeah. As I tell you not to talk about it, here I go like fishing.
Yeah, you're like, wait for later, but tell me now.
Yeah.
we can.
People.
I'll tell you at some point, or we can talk about it beforehand.
I mean, I think I know roughly a lot of them.
Number
But I
one
mean,
will surprise you.
You mean in terms of placing compared to dollars spent, or in terms of dollars spent?
But that's also a clickbait headline, but it's also true. Oh, Nick Allen leaving CLG. That's another thing that happened. Thank you, Cameron.
Oh yeah, CLG
Cameron.
blew up because Brian Tran left too.
Yeah. Although I don't think CLG Brian Tran was involved as much with like the league side of things, from what I can tell. I think he was just more of like a corporate operations person.
Right, but I mean, like the company is experiencing.
But yes, it does look weird whenever two people up at the top are leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. CLG subreddit is in an interesting place right now. I love anybody who wants to just going to a subreddit when the team is in a really weird place. It's actually very popcorn.
It's like going to the Song of Fire and Ice subreddit instead of the Game of Thrones subreddit to see the reaction to the last episode.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
VX Jupiter says, please let us know what type of shampoo you use. I would love to know what your hair smells like. Paul Mitchell.
Head and Shoulders 2-in-1, baby.
Yikes. That's okay. Anyway, let's do you want to explain how the show works?
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen the show before, the way that we do this is we have a Discord, and I'm going to spam it in Twitch chat right now. So you go ahead and you join up at that Discord. Once you're there, go ahead and join Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2, the voice channels. From there, you don't need to do anything. You just go into the Pleb Topics text channel and go ahead and write out whatever it is you want to talk about. You know, we kind of went over all the things that happened this week, so, you know, feel free to just kind of pick one. And then from there, if we like your topic, and especially if you have a nice take for that topic, we'll pull you into the waiting room from the voice channel that you're in. You'll hang out there until it's your turn. I'll hop in, do a quick mic check to make sure everything's good, and then we'll pull you into the on-air room. And
if you
looking
are
pretty dead right now, Travis.
What's that?
Says looking pretty dead right now.
Well, they'll get going. This is a great week for you to be able to get on the show. So if Mark's been denying you, if Mark's been denying you, we again, because I fucked up starting the show on time and all that stuff, we have half the viewers we normally have. So you can sneak in with your shitty take this week. I know you've been waiting forever.
Yeah. Also, just general MSI predictions. Even though there's group stage first, and most of the teams you care about aren't playing for the next couple of days. But
yeah,
actually,
can you do me a favor and talk a little bit about that? Because I actually have done a piss poor job of paying attention to what's going on in plans and all that. I mean, obviously I saw the schedule change, but maybe because you've had to do this research, you can give us a little preview while the topics go in. Oh, and by the way, if you are a sub, by the way, please put your topics in the subtopics chat, because we check that as well, and it moves a little slower, so you get a good chance of getting on the show if you do
that. If I'm going to do this, do you mind looking at topics? So I can
we'll switch roles this time.
Split my focus. Ooh, baby. All right. So filling in. Obviously, if you haven't heard, MSI's schedule got super messed up. There was the death of the president or prime minister or a
former political figure.
Yeah, high-level political figure in Vietnam, and it's tradition to hold a mourning period where there can be no events, no anything. Like they shut down everything for a couple of days, and that was during MSI. So Riot has had to scramble. Obviously, it's a shitty situation. You can't do much about it. And it's only going to affect play-in stage. And the format for play-in stage was kind of the typical, play-in format. You have multiple groups. They play against themselves in the groups, and then they go play against a couple major regions to try and play into the main tournament. The way this one was structured was there's 2 groups of 4, I believe, and the top from each group get out only, and then they play Flash Wolves and Team Liquid. The winner of those best of 5s will go into the main tournament, and then the loser of those best of 5s will play to be the last team seeded into the tournament. That was supposed to take place over 6 days, I'm pretty sure. I think it was like 5 games a day, and then 2 best of 5s in one day, and then 1 best of 5. And due to the schedule change, they're doing 8 games, potentially up to 11 games on that day for tiebreakers, if I understand it correctly. And then, I guess it's 8 games, like 2 days off, 8 more games with the potential for tiebreakers, and then a 10-game day, potentially 10-game day for the double best of 5, and I think the last best of 5 days. So I think they lost 2 of their 6 days, and now it's over 4. So it's pretty weird.
Well, I mean, I assume that's going to kill you on the broadcast.
So there's,
I mean, you guys are doing like 8-hour, 10-hour broadcast days, right?
Yeah, I mean, the casters are the ones who are really going to die, and I think there's a feeling that people might have to. I think those days will get potentially split up more so than they were planning on doing. So I think people were going to do. I don't know. It's just tough for the casters because they're just going to have to work a lot. But yeah, that's MSI.
Are there favored teams to get through the plans?
Yeah, so if you missed the group draw show, Group A kind of feels like the group of death. There's a couple teams in Group A that are the main threats to anyone. So you have 1907 Fenerbahce coming in, but they're actually not the main one. From my understanding, obviously, it's going to be Fungwu Buffalo, who are the, they were sort of a major region, and I think they got moved back down or something. But they're in Group A as well. So it's pretty tough for Group A. They also have Vega Squadron and Mega. Probably it's just between Fungwu. Oh, no, excuse me. They actually have Bombers and Isurus. I misspoke. So some people are hyped on Bombers. They're a really good OPL team. Isurus, they merged Latin America North and Latin America South. And Isurus was the team to come out of that. And they have a couple people you might know, like Seiya and Adi and stuff like that. So Group A is really tough. Group B feels a lot easier. There's the Japanese team, Detonation Focus Me, Brazil's team, but it's not the team everyone wanted from Brazil. It's like a team that doesn't look very good, and people think they lucked their way into it. There's Mega from SEA, which Southeast Asia has been bad ever since they split that region up a bunch of times. And then lastly, it's Vega Squadron, who are from the LCL, and some people are trying to hype up, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
By the way, I'm gonna feed. We're getting very few topics, including somebody who keeps trying to talk about Richard Fox. I'm gonna seed some topics to you guys because we were just talking about these. So if people want to talk about, I'm looking for topics about Riot walkout, Nick CLG and the management leaving, the TF Blade thing. What else did we talk? We mentioned. Stuff like that would be great. People talking about how, like, when G2 and TL meet in the semifinals of MSI, we've got like another 3 more weeks of MSI. So I kind of want to wait till we get closer to those moments for us to have those types of conversations.
There's Richard Lewis drama. I don't know, because it's kind of the Echo Fox drama, but it's
I don't think we need a call to talk about that, but we should say really quickly, it is really disappointing that the conversation around the Echo Fox stuff got removed from the subreddit. Like, even if people can't put the article up there, because I know he's like indefinitely banned, like, it's really weird that the thread discussing the article without a link to the article got removed from the League of Legends subreddit. The mods are just in a whole new world. Like, it wasn't until LoL Esports tweeted about it that we were able to actually talk about it on the subreddit. I just feel like
they set up
a whole nother planet.
Yeah, they set up this weird catch-22 where it was like, okay, I don't know exactly what went down between Richard Lewis and the mods way back in the day that got him banned, whatever. But then they made it so that you couldn't post his article, which was the only article out there about it. But at the same time, you couldn't talk about the news without a source, and he's the only source out there.
Yes. So you have to pick one. Either you allow the article or you don't allow the article and allow the discussion about the article.
Right, and rather than this is what we talked about before. Like, rather than use their brains and be like, okay, we should make an exception in this situation to his content because this is a very important piece of news relevant to the league community, that we should lift the ban so people can get the article from him, because vaguely talking about it without a source is obviously much worse than letting this guy who you've banned on the subreddit for this one topic and making an exception to the rule. But of course, they can't do that. They have these 2 rules that create a situation where you can't talk about it, and that's what they go with, which is absolutely ridiculous. So anyways, I guess we don't need to cover it any more than that. It's ridiculous.
Okay. I've got 5 people in the waiting room, so I think that's enough.
Do you have who'd you pull first? Just give me a starting point.
Tom Shu.
Okay.
Off Mark goes. While he's there grabbing our first caller, I want to read off some names, some subs, some people who've supported the show this week. O'Nuggins, Ship Nate, Will D1 Thrill, Deadly Moth 29, Dr. Manhattan 18, who's sitting around 18 months, Will D1 Thrill, Lil Rhea, Rebel Comfort 15, and Purple Ray Q. We got Tom Shu on the show. Tom Shu, welcome back.
Hey guys, long time no see. It's been a while.
Yeah, when was the last time you were on?
Geez, I think it's been like at least a month.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit.
That's crazy. Well, okay, so what do you want to talk... Oh, first off, remind me where you're from.
Hampton Roads, Virginia.
Hampton Roads, Virginia. And what do you want to talk about? Is that like... Do you guys sing the Country Road song there?
Oh God, that's in West Virginia. This is just normal Virginia.
No one ever cared about that. They play that for everything. I was watching fucking... This is gonna be a tangent for a second. Kingsman 2, and they're going to like Tallahassee or something, or maybe they were going to Georgia. I think they were going to Georgia, and they played Country Roads as like the transition song to get to Georgia, even though they say West Virginia like in the second line of that song, and it's just like, what the fuck is this?
I don't know. It's just like a generic Hick song, you know, like horses in the back.
There's better ones.
Yeah, Sweet Home Alabama. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so what do you want to talk about?
Sure. Today I want to talk about just recently. I think about was it 2 days ago that TL's head analyst was go popping off on Twitter talking about TL's chances in group stage at MSI. Assuming they actually just make it past the play-ins, which they probably should. He just posted a series of tweets up there. Let me read the first one for you. Pretty sure anyone sleeping on TL is going to be surprised as hell. We have the best or second best bottom lane in the tournament, lol. And then he keeps going on, more hot takes. I think G2, TL, and SKT are all better than IG team-wise. Lol NA top 3 is better than EU top 3. I think TL is below any of the top 3. Man, makes me laugh out loud, yada yada. I just want to get some of your thoughts on that.
So what the great thing about this guy is, TLKs is his Twitter. I've got his stuff up on the screen right now. So people might not remember this, but he was an analyst or maybe an assistant coach or something for Fnatic last year. And Mark,
Really?
do you remember when he called into the show?
Wait, he did?
Oh, Mark, you're muted yourself.
When did I do that? Did we get all my popping off about whatever? I don't think I remember that.
Oh yeah,
Maybe we
I
can
heard
talk
you
about the
pop
topic.
off about Country Road.
Okay, great.
So
That's
he
the
was the
important
one that called in and said Fnatic is going to 3-0 in the finals. You remember?
Oh yeah, that was pretty.
I didn't realize that was him.
Yes, that was him. So he left Fnatic and now works for TL. And he came up and introduced himself to me, I think maybe like the first week or whatever, and was like, "Hey dude, I'm the guy that called into the show." And I remember he got flamed so much for that. And then I think over the course of the call, we were like, "Are you sure you want?" He's like, "Well, I think it's going to be a 3-0 either way." Maybe how I would say it actually. So it's funny now that the next international event, he's got a bunch of tweets going. I wish he's probably in Korea right now with the team, but I wish he would call in on this episode and say all this stuff. So
I guess I'd say I'm glad this guy exists, and I appreciate that he is not afraid to speak his mind and give spicy hot takes.
yeah.
But
Yes.
that's not the track record I think TL fans want to hear, because I didn't realize it was the same guy.
Yes, it's the same guy, and I love it. I love it so much. It's him. So what's your take on all that, Tom Shu? Because I know you mentioned that he tweeted this stuff. I don't know if you have a take on it.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, with the with how well TL's going to do at MSI, I'm not exactly worried about their bottom lane. Like Doublelift and Core JJ have been notoriously consistent. Honestly, them picking priority lanes for Doublelift and Core JJ is basically how they came back against TSM, be able to reverse sweep them because of Doublelift getting priority with Varus. But if I was worried about anything, it's more being the rest of the team. Like how is Impact gonna step up against the Shy and all these amazing tops, and can Jensen really hold his own versus Rookie and Caps? And I think the jury is kind of out on that one. So I think you might be getting a little optimistic as far as being top of the pack.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I think there was a Reddit thread where people were discussing this as well, and I think that was the top comment as well. It's like, all right,
that was my
great.
top comment.
Oh, it was you?
Yeah, that was me.
Heyo.
Nice. Well, you get to talk about it in two large places. Regardless, I think it's really, yes, I think it's so strange to just be like, that. Okay, it's very similar to, because we'll get people that call in and they say, Cloud9 is going to win because Niski's popping off and is doing so well, and he's going to smash Bjergsen in lane, and it's amazing. He's like a god. And you go, okay, it's great. You've discussed one player. You haven't really told me how like the team is going to win on a broader level. Now, I do think I'm trying to see if we pull up his tweets again. If he, excuse me.
Well, they cover a lot of ground too.
Oh yeah.
What his tweets? You mean?
Yeah, like it's not just like TL's gonna win. It's also like the top. He's talking about like regional strength, the top 3 when Rift Rivals comes around.
Yeah, he says IG
Yeah,
is
there's a
not
lot
as
to
good as
unpack.
G2, TL, to SKT. So I'm just wondering. I guess maybe we do need like a thing to a focus for this conversation, and it is. I guess maybe just that first part for sure about. It's kind of weird to say they're sleeping on us. We've got the best or second best bot lane when there's so much more going on that team.
Right, like to Tom Shu's point, I definitely agree that Doublelift and Core JJ sounds really good. One of the best Eastern supports with the best Western AD carry. for North America at least. You know, you can bait Reckless
The best Western ADC.
The
Yeah,
best
Reckless.
Western ADC.
Lamau.
But either way, you know, like super good pairing in the bot lane, especially if Mickey is not playing, and it's, you know, it's going to be a pretty, I think, obvious pick that, you know, TL's the better bot lane of Western teams. But like, yeah, to that point, like, well, the question is like, you guys have not, you play like a pretty late style, it feels like. Impact's concern maybe in the top lane against the Shy and some of the other top laners. Yeah, I don't know. And then like the whole point is kind of like weird, where he's saying like, oh yeah, Rookie and the Shy are super good, but they're just like laning good, so their team's not actually that good. But by the way, we have a good bot lane and our team's not that good, but don't worry about that.
Yeah.
It feels somewhat similar line of, unless he's saying that their team's actually really good. But the point that he raised, at least in that tweet, was like, we have a great lane in one position, so we're going to do well. Don't mind this team that has probably the strongest solo lanes in the tournament that just won Worlds. Don't worry about them.
Yeah, I pretty much agree.
What's weird too is that in the Twitter chain, people are challenging him on like, hey, what about the other parts of your team? And he never replies to those tweets, but he does reply to the others that are like, well, actually, somebody says, do you really see any TL solo lane or above competition? And he just replies, it's like, NA's better than EU. And I'm like, I don't know if I love this guy or if I think he's a crazy man. Maybe a little bit of both, but
he responded to the second half of that guy's point. Barely made it through NA finals while others were like trashing their regions.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like NA better than EU top 3.
Wait, go down a little bit, Travis. Sorry.
Sure.
Oh, he responded to his own tweet. I wasn't sure what he said there.
It's in terms of MSI to think TL's below any of the top teams by a full letter grade makes me laugh out loud. Like G2 is playing with a sub. So again, like he's focused so much on the bot lane.
Yeah. Huh.
I don't know. It's just looking at the rest of the team. I just feel like this is a team that can really get punished hard in draft, especially because I don't know, talking about the Impact only plays tanks meme. But it can be really real when you're playing against stuff like the Shy and you're playing against Rookie and like all these guys who can like play anything anywhere, even like G2 who have a sub bot lane. Like if you get crushed by Wonder and Caps, then what's your bottom lane going to do?
Yeah. I don't think of Impact and Xmithy and think, man, they're going to crush the international competition. And I don't think I always think that they'll go even either.
Yeah, like I thought losing gracefully was Impact's thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he can play some carries. You know, like he has a decent GP, I think, and he can sort of play frontline mages.
You okay, Tom?
Fine.
I'm good.
Hey man, his GP's fine.
Oh no, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't pick it against a Shy. I wouldn't really want to pick it against Khan. I don't know. Maybe you can. I'm trying to think, like who would I want him to pick it against? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Playing.
We're gonna LMS team.
You could play against LMS and some of the wildcard teams. You know, like I guess that's fair. That's about half the teams. That's not them.
Yeah, like what can Jensen do? Like I don't know. He's been getting a lot of like hype lately. Do you think he can stand up versus like Rookie and Caps?
I think so. For the most part, like I think they're clearly better players than him, and I think 1v1 would be a struggle. So I'm a little concerned about that, especially in a best of 5. But like, he also has last Worlds hulked out really hard to help them win their series in the quarterfinals against Africa, and he has a decent track record at international competition. So. You know, it's obviously there's Rookie, Caps, and Faker, but like to get out of groups and into quarters, like you know, you don't need to be beating those guys 1v1 and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's just like, is it really a success if we go like 4-6 and then get swept in semis?
No, absolutely not. But I guess I'm saying like I don't feel like the mid lane is the big mismatch problem. I think like I don't love Team Liquid's like style for the tournament.
Me neither. I think it's stiff as a board.
Yeah, so that plus top lane plus potentially jungle.
They just need to pull up Cloud9. They need to find some other team that's got a great style and then just like yoink. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so much of Western success in recent international tournaments has been like, we have that X factor. Like, C9's playing a bunch of weird stuff, and G2's playing weird stuff, and Fnatic's like doing super cool stuff, and like Team Liquid is the least cool team we have, maybe the entire league. For no NA fans, it's like the least exciting team to watch in draft. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're always a solid team, but I don't know. They just don't have that kind of ceiling that TSM or C9 does.
Hey, thank you so much for calling in, Tom. Anything you want to say?
I appreciate you guys giving us constructive feedback about the whole Richard Lewis thing. Helps make the separate better. Oh, and also remember to support your local talent, and 1 like equals 1 NA mid laner.
Thank you. Have a good one.
No problem. Take it easy.
All right. We can do another call.
I think someone disappeared.
Did they?
Yeah,
oh, yeah, somebody did. I don't know who. Maybe they'll show back up again later. Because we definitely had 4 more in the chamber. Purple Ray Q for the 13 months. Thank you, Alienware, for allowing Travis to cover all these major events. Yeah, thank you. I agree. Rebel Com, Ilrea, I think I said those. Gafford Ganger 420 for the 4 months. Hey, Travis, have a good time in Vietnam. Safe travels. I hope so. Fool on a Hill for 7 and Hoik for 6. We got Pat in the call. Pat, where are you calling from?
Big Rapids, Michigan.
Big Rapids, Michigan. Have you been on the show before?
No.
Okay. Well, welcome. First time on the show. Good to have you. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So, bear with me because I don't have like stats in front of me, but I think that TL is going to be the new TSM, and they're just going to flop at every international tournament.
Okay. Speaking, first off, looking forward to talking about this hot take, but we also have TLKs who just subbed as a tier 2 sub for 7 months and said did not expect that one to blow up. So he's here. The analyst himself is watching, and now we've got a topic where you're saying that they're going to fail and flop just like TSM, so he can watch that and enjoy it. Go ahead and explain sort of your thought process on this. Okay,
so in North America, obviously they're like way above everyone else, and you can see that in their gameplay. But once they get to world stage, like Doublelift said in the one interview at Worlds, like it's the one thing that he just can't do. And I think that something mentally is just holding him back, and I think he knows that because he kind of like makes comments like a lot about it. And I think even though he like upgraded to having Core JJ as a support, like kind of towards the end of the season, Core JJ seemed to like not be necessarily caring as much. Also, their overall play style kind of reminds me of Schalke from EU, in that like they aren't themselves like very aggressive early game. If they play against a team that is aggressive, then like sometimes they can handle it. But once you get to the world stage, you're playing against teams that like actually know what they're doing early game, and it's hard to match something like that when you don't play that yourself.
So on your first take, which is Doublelift's international performance, I do remember him saying that in the interview at Worlds last year. I just kind of disagree because I do agree that he had pretty poor performances internationally prior at most of his events. But last year at MSI and at Worlds, I felt like the general consensus was that Doublelift wasn't an issue, that he played pretty well. And in one game in particular, I think towards the end of his running groups, he played very well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. Was that the general consensus?
I think people have been decently happy with his individual international performance. I think MSI was a little bit better than Worlds for him, but it never really felt like Doublelift was the problem. Quite like you could maybe say that a little bit during the TSM years, where he was notably less impactful in his international games and made some pretty big mistakes than his regional ones. I felt like, for the most part, it was not Doublelift's play that was hurting them at international play last year.
But we were just kind of talking about the style concerns. I don't know, Mark, you probably, much like all noble North Americans, don't really watch much EU, right?
I have started prepping for MSI.
So are you familiar with the Schalke references that Pat is making?
No.
Okay.
Not really. I've watched G2. I've watched a couple of G2 series now.
Yeah, you watched the relevant ones, yeah.
And yeah.
To be fair, I haven't watched a lot of EU this year, but it was more like next year what I remember from Schalke.
Yeah.
But so like with Double Lift, like it's not necessarily that like, so obviously he like plays well, but it like the way I see it at least is like he's not playing to win his lane, and like he never really did anything like the IG, I think it was the IG bot lane, where like he just pops off. Like he just doesn't have any moments like that at Worlds. To where I feel like on his team, like if someone's gonna carry, it's probably gonna be him, and he just doesn't have like the right mindset for it.
It's been a little while since last year, so I don't exactly remember. And like in the finals, he had that game where he has like a 40 CSD lead over Sven, even though he's dying a little bit because the enemy team's super forcing him. He's buying space for like the rest of his team and stuff like that. Like the game 3 game, and then obviously they crushed game 4. Like I think he has some games where he got pretty good CS leads, but like a large part of like, he doesn't get a ton of solo kills and blow the game open like you're used to watching week in and week out in the LCS because the players are just better, and it's more about like your team working well to exploit. Like if you poke someone low in international competition through like good laning and trades, like it's very unlikely that player kills himself. It more often requires like team coordination. Sometimes it happens, especially in solo lanes, but to that point, like I agree it doesn't look as impressive, but I also don't think like there are other marksmen like running around absolutely shitting on kids left and right, and it's like, wow, Double Lift isn't keeping up.
But on the style stuff,
Yes.
we are concerned about that.
Yeah, I think that they play a pretty boring style, where you saw like the TSM draft thing to me, like prep, where like they took Sonateric and their answer was Ash Syra, and you hear them say like, oh, we didn't think they would take it. We kind of prepped for it, but we didn't seriously think about it. Or like that's kind of how it sounded, is like pretty concerning a little bit. And I don't think they have like, this is our explosive counter pick to this situation that like if things go well we'll crush. It doesn't feel like they ever have that. They tried the Heimer into Zoe, didn't go very well. So like that would be my concern. Like, yeah, they're probably not going to outskill that many teams. Is their coordination significantly better than the other top regions teams? Probably not. So like you kind of want that X factor that some teams have had before, like G2's Heimerdinger pick, where it's like you got to ban that, and if you don't ban it, you're gonna lose. And then like they have a couple of their picks that they play super well that makes drafting against them difficult. I don't know what makes drafting against Team Liquid difficult at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does feel like we just don't have anything up our sleeve compared to some of the other.
And maybe they know this and they're prepping something, and then they pull something out and I look dumb in 2 weeks.
But it's not been their situation up until now.
Right, history does not seem to.
It's not like they beat TSM with innovative strategies no one had ever seen.
They were losing because of innovative strategies.
Yes.
Once the drafts normalized, they started winning.
Jensen pulled out Heimerdinger, and it was like, oh.
Yeah.
I mean, that just kind of reminds me of like I think it was last year when they said that they were practicing new strategies when they started like losing. And even then they didn't really bring out anything that was like special or anything. So I don't think they have it like in them to even like, it reminds me. So going back to my original topic, like it reminds me of when TSM would get to Worlds and like you could just see that they were like trying to like copy the meta like from Korea and just play what they perceive as like being really strong, which is fine if you're like playing that in North America. But once you get to Worlds, like how did C9 succeed? Like they played really heavily early game and they just fought every fight. But I don't think Team Liquid can even do that.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement on the style point. Might not have agreed on the bot lane point, but definitely agree about the style concern. And I don't know if you want to attribute it exactly to like they're trying to copy Korean teams or not, or
Yeah, I feel like that's a classic go-to, but I don't know if it's.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where like it feels good to say, but you're not quite sure if it's true, because easily they could also be playing those things and having their best scrim results when they play those champs, and then it's hard to be like, ignore your scrim results, play weird shit that you haven't been successful with, because maybe they did try stuff and it wasn't working as well as the meta stuff. So it's always a little speculative for that excuse, or for that reason. I don't love it, but to that point, it's not like they were creative. Regardless of reasoning, they haven't been creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Thank you so much, Pat, for calling in. Anything you want to say here?
I don't think so. Shout out to Alienware.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good one, and thanks for the call.
Yep, thanks.
All right.
We doing a break?
I think we're doing a break. Actually, let's do one more. Let's do one more.
Okay.
I'm realizing the video I need to play is in 4K, and the XSplit hates it when I feed it 4K videos, so I'm trying to figure out a workaround.
Is that why it was breaking? It has a couple of frame drops a little bit ago.
You're asking a lot of questions. I don't feel comfortable discussing.
Alrighty.
All right, Mark went off to grab the next caller. If my throat's a little weird or you hear me clearing my throat a lot, I apologize. I had a cold like 6 weeks ago. I was like, okay, cool. There's my cold for the season. And then a week ago, Kobe walks in. He's got a cold. Now I have a cold. It's not as bad as the first time, but somehow he gave me the flashback. I don't. Very frustrating. Aduin Jubes for 10 months. Admiral Longdong Silver, 5 months. Exogen Chan, Pluto 7443, Luna Mobile Latuna for 16 months, and Nihilist Gamer for 11. Looks like we got our next person here. Flushed Hand, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Kenosha, Wisconsin. I'm going to turn you up a bit. Nice. Have you been on the show before?
I have not.
Well, great. Welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the TF Blade situation and how, well, I do think it sucks for him, and it was like right for it to be reverted. I completely understand it from Twitch's perspective, how they like had to do it.
Okay. So why, well, first off, I don't think we're going to argue with you that if people are dropping racial slurs on their platform that they should take action against it. But it does feel like the double down where they're like, actually we had a bunch of people review it and it's still an issue. That
I guess
that's where I get confused. So I don't know if you're saying like it makes sense that they still kept it going or what.
No. So I think the original makes sense where like if they had people listen to it and they were like, well, this is what we hear. Like, yeah, you gotta ban him. And like, I mean, okay, so first off, in the beginning when I first listened to it, I couldn't tell anything was being said. I had no idea what was going on. And then I went to the comments, saw what they were saying, and then I played it in slow motion, and I heard the slur, right?
Yeah.
But when I played it at normal speed, I heard idiot every time. So, I mean, I can see how they heard it, because when I slowed it down, that's all I can hear, even now. Like, but played at normal speed, I hear idiot.
Yeah, my concern is once it is clear that it is like broadly up for debate, you know, like if it was a 100% thing, the community is not going to come out and be like, actually, I'm hearing something completely different, right? Like I feel like this guy would be, you know, blasted from the mountaintops. But instead, it's very obvious that there's a giant question mark here. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chad or Mark or something, but I don't think there's any history of TF Blade exhibiting poor behavior or saying anything inappropriate. Like if XQC does it and you're like, this is borderline, you're like, okay, well, this guy has a questionable history on streaming, meh. But like, I'm unaware of anything like that with TF Blade.
I mean, TF Blade definitely like rages at the game a little bit, and he's not like PC necessarily, where he's clearly swearing a lot. You know, he's not child friendly, but
Sure.
he's also never been like a.
He's like rated R, you know, situation, not like
He's like PG-13 to be honest.
Yeah,
he's
he's
like,
not
oh,
that
these fucking guys, you know, they'll drop some f-bombs. He'll be like, you know, but he's not bad at all.
He's one of the better ones.
Yeah, he's absolutely, and he's a good guy. Like you can easily tell, just watching him for a little bit. Like, so yeah, on that point, I think I can understand. Like, my take on it was this: like, I understand it's ambiguous at the beginning. Like, there's definitely like the word starts with an N, and depending on what device you're listening to, as people talk about the Yanny Laurel thing, like, there's probably something going on with depending on what device you're listening to, what word you're listening for. That kind of stuff. Like when I listened to it on my headset the first time, I was like, this is so clear. I heard it when it slowed down. I always heard idiots. I showed it to my dad one time because I was hanging out with my family last week when all this was going on. I showed it to my dad and I was going to ask him, like, what do you hear? And I pulled my phone out and just kind of held it out and then I kind of heard the N word that time. And I was like, okay, so maybe there's a little bit more credence to this. But to Travis's point, the problem is not that like people didn't shit on Twitch for banning him the first time necessarily. Like it is a little up in the air. It is a little questionable. It definitely starts with an N. You can kind of understand why there is some concern around it, and the first ban happens. I think it's everything that happened after the first day and the first ban is why people really dug in on this, and that's why I really dug in on it.
Oh yeah.
And like that's the thing, is it's not like, oh, Twitch shouldn't ban anyone when they hear the N-word or anything like that. It's just like, okay, well, this guy has a squeaky clean record, and then you double down, you listen to it again, and then you say, well, taking into account your squeaky clean record, we think you said it. We still think you're wrong, but you're not a bad guy. So now it's 7 days. And it's like, well, if that was the case,
that's crazy.
Exactly. At that point, you have to get rid of it all, right? Like if you admit that there's any, like.
Well, either it's like, why was it 30 in the first place? Why are you changing it now? Nothing you said here indicates that you should be switching it, other than that means you didn't take those factors into account in the first place. You just arbitrarily threw a 30-day ban at this guy.
I expect the Twitch admins to do a better job than the League of Legends subreddit mods. All right, like that's literally a League subreddit mod call.
Yeah, at that point, they should have just said, we're sorry, we messed up, your ban's lifted. And they still haven't apologized, have they? And
I don't think they're going to.
Total radio silence.
No chance.
Because it's just embarrassing if they put it out. I think they just will feel like they've got egg on their face.
I mean, to me, it kind of. So my question is like, I wanted to ask Twitch this, like, what is your system for do you have a database of all infractions that you've handed out that you can pull from to look at precedents? You don't have to treat everyone exactly the same way, but do you have some system of checking for precedents against how these things have been handled in the past? Has this guy been banned before? Has he received warnings before? Do you have?
I mean, their chat has it right now. I can click on anybody in this chat and see how many times, Escapee1, this guy in the chat, or lady, I don't know. He's been timed out once in my chat. But zero bans.
But that's on your.
I know. I'm just saying, if Twitch chat has it, I gotta imagine on the back end they have.
Yeah, but I mean, I would hope so, but you don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
So that's my question is did you have a repository where you checked and saw that there are no previous infractions against this guy? Did you check what happened for other potential racial slurs? Because
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people banned before for this stuff, but I didn't think it was that long.
It all feels arbitrary, depending on the guy in the day, you guys hear the Pokemon one, right? Where she said Anivia, and it's that one to me sounded way more like it, and I was like, oof. I mean, obviously, I don't think that's what she meant, or I think she meant Anivia, but it's that one just got away.
Yes.
Yeah. And before, I don't think I would have cared that much about the TF Blade situation, because I use live stream failed try and stay in the news about what's going on the platform. I don't really necessarily like the community there, but I listen, I read the comments, and they're always hunting for these kinds of inconsistent rulings, and for the most part I'm that's just what
yes, and then blaming all of it on favors or whatever.
Yeah, it's the reasoning's not always great. I understand there are inconsistencies, and so initially I was just gonna meme this one up a little bit, but then TF Blade tweeted something think about this as impact on sponsors for me. No one's going to look at the details around it. They're just going to hear that I have been banned for using a racial slur. And that's when I was wait, that is pretty fucked up. And that's when I was this is a little crazy. And the fact that they haven't come out and apologized and just said we're wrong, that kind of stuff is kind of insane to me. Cause at the end of the day, it's not exactly 100% clear with what he said, but that's why it's funny that he's basically getting banned for having an accent, because he isn't enunciating everything perfectly. He's in a high stress game and kind of just word fishing and just these fucking. He didn't even actually say fucking. If you go back and look, that's something that people get wrong all the time. They don't actually check it. But to the initial point, the problem is not that it was a little up in the air. It's just the process took so long, and it was such a hard 30-day ban out of nowhere, slow to react to,
It's also just frustrating because there is a world where like Twitch looks at these people and say, okay, if you fuck up on our platform, you're gonna get punished. But whenever Twitch fucks up, you know, unless they're cutting him a check on the back end or something, or sending him a really big apology and saying this is why we can't say it publicly or whatever, I don't know. Like, it's like, okay, so there's no, you fucked up in this situation and you're not going to come out and say anything. You're not going to admit it. You're just going to quietly unban and hope it all goes away.
Right. And if they apologized, it would clear some things up, at least in terms of, you know, let's say the sponsor's looking him up or looking up the situation, they might see, instead of, you know, he gets banned, they see Twitch apologizes to TF Blade for whatever, and it would help him out tremendously.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
just,
That's true,
Well,
actually.
and by unbanning him, you've already admitted you made a mistake.
yep.
Like, the PR thing is just doing what you should be doing. It's being a responsible actor in the space. Not doing it as like trying to be like, okay, yeah, we fucked up, so let's sweep it under the rug and not ever acknowledge it, kind of thing. Which is, to me, you know, maybe it reduces the blowback because you haven't publicly admitted anywhere you fucked up. But like, to people in the scene, it's like even worse. It's like you can't even admit your mistakes.
Yeah.
You know. And that's not like a.
I just realized, by the way, I'm so sorry. Some people might be listening to this, and they might not have caught this because maybe they don't go to the subreddit or something. Oh man, I feel bad for anybody that had to sit through this. Just to be clear, here's what happened. TF Blade streaming, he says something about like, let's kill these idiots.
Kill these idiots, yeah.
And to some people on certain speaker systems or with certain predilections towards hearing it, I don't know, who knows what the cause is. It sounds like he's saying let's kill these and then the N-word, which of course is, you know, atrocious if you hear that and that's what you think it is. And of course you're going to ban the person. The problem was it rapidly came out that this is not maybe what most people are hearing and is very likely not what he said. And they banned him for 30 days. And so then after, I think maybe like 24 hours or something after, you know, it kind of blew up, and there was a Reddit thread about it, they then said, hey, all of our staff, you know, on this team that monitors this stuff still hear it. But you've got a good record, so we're going to limit it down. We're going to take it down to 7 days. So that's sort of, and then Steve from Team Liquid, because he's a streamer underneath the Team Liquid brand, said he was going to reach out to Twitch and try to get it fixed. And then TF Blade eventually said, okay, well, it got solved. And
yeah, it was another 24 hours. So it was altogether, it was 3 days of him being banned.
Do you
So
think
anyway.
that's what fixed it, or do you think it was they just eventually caved? Or do
who
you think it
knows?
was,
But
like,
I'm sure
Steve pressure?
TL reached out
It's
undoubtedly,
the
and
combined
I'm sure
pressure
that
of
heard
some
the
sort,
conversation.
of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. Anyway, Fleshhand, thank you so much for calling in. Anything you want to say on the way
thanks
out?
for having me. No, I'm all good.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
All right.
Yeah.
Now let's take a break. Mark, I'm going to mute you really quickly so that I can play this video. And
I'm
you
gonna
can
I'm gonna eat during it.
Yeah, you can watch the video, or if you want or something. I don't know. But either way, this next thing is a little video that we put together. Basically, a couple of weeks ago in St. Louis, we were able to do a live episode of Hotline League. That was thanks to Alienware and Intel, who made it happen. We made a video just about some of the stuff that we did, basically, namely the fact that we were able to use an Area 51M, which I've talked about before on the show. I have one now myself, which is kind of fun. I got to get one myself after the show was done in St. Louis. And we used it to power the production. So anyway, I'll just show the video now, and you guys can take a look. I think it came out pretty well. We are in St. Louis, and Hotline League Live is about to happen. This is amazing because it's great that we can throw together a event for all the fans who want to catch something other than just the games tomorrow. It's been awesome working with Alienware and Intel. I know Buddy's been really excited about the Area 51M, which is helping us make this whole thing happen. Fans should be coming in any second, and I'm just really excited about this whole thing.
We're using the Area 51M to do all the live stream switching that we would normally use a much larger product for. We're routing an SLI slotted Decklink Quad 2 card, which is an internal card for, you know, like a big desktop computer that we've routed through a Thunderbolt, and we're now routing all of our cameras, everything that we're switching on this show, to the Area 51M. This is my video switcher. Everything is in this computer. I came with 3 bags to St. Louis, and we created an entire live stream. I've never been able to do that before. There is no other laptop that's this powerful. Believe me, I've tried to find one. It's bonkers.
Damn, Buddy's a salesman, huh?
Pretty good, right? I really like how that video came out. That's
I didn't have a speaking line in it though. That'd be my only complaint about it.
Yeah, that was intentional. We were worried about what you'd say. Either way, thank you so much to Alienware and Intel for making that live event happen. If you didn't get a chance to go out to that, hopefully, talking to them, I think they felt like it was pretty successful, so hopefully we can do some more. What would be really fun is doing one around Rift Rivals. Would you enjoy that, Mark?
Huh?
Well, I'd enjoy it, and so would you guys. So hopefully we can end up doing that. Either way, thanks so much to Alienware and Intel for making that happen, and for sponsoring Hotline League. Thank you to Alienware. Check out the Area 51M with a Core i9 processor. You can get an i7 in there too. It's pretty powerful. I love it. Let's move on to the next call.
You should put that video on loop, muted, in the player 3 box.
I think people would complain.
People complain about everything anyways.
Yeah, but they'd be like, it's distracting. All right. And also people would be like, why is Buddy talking? You can't hear him. It'd be kind of weird.
Okay, fine.
You want to go grab the next person?
You're always right, Travis.
Oh, man. I like it when you say it. Okay. Oh, by the way, I saw Quasi in the chat, by the way, who is, I don't know why I said by the way twice, who was helping us out with that show. It was kind of cool. Anyway, Mark is grabbing the next caller. We're going to give a couple shout outs. Thank you to Luna, Bumblebee, Tuna, Pluto7443, Nihilist Gamer, NA Alistar. It is official for 15 months. The Jumbles, Ari Waddle for 15, Green Tea Ho, Hey I'm Rabid, and Dindle donated 420. As good as Jensen is, his champion pool is very exploitable by the top teams, especially when Impact is on the same team. That's their take. Octa is here. Octa, where are you calling from?
Iowa.
Iowa. Where in Iowa?
Little town called Fort Dodge.
Fort Dodge? All right. Well, I'm not familiar with it, but I gotta admit I'm not familiar with most places in Iowa. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
Basically that CLG is falling apart. They've lost all their star players, coaching staff, and pretty much everyone, and they're just holding on to a skeleton crew of a team.
A skeleton crew of a team. When you say skeleton crew of a team, what do you mean? That makes it sound like they don't have any support staff.
Well, I don't know about support staff. I meant by skeleton crew of a team, I meant more of the players that are left on the team are just like you have a new jungler who isn't really doing a whole lot. Like he's not bad, but he's not great. You've got Darshan who's performing well, rather poorly. The bot lane had a bad split, and the mid was supposed to be like a star import, but probably isn't even within the top 5 mid laners right now. You just don't really have a lot to work with. They lost their coach, who went on to TSM to be very successful with a team that wasn't, and it just seems like they're falling apart, like as an org and as a team.
Well, I agree. I would imagine Darshan is not going to be there, and I imagine they'll make other changes as well.
You think this split they're going to do that, or next year?
I think they'll do it this split. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, I know that Nick is leaving, and
I think they just lost their GM in the middle of it.
Well, he was in their GM. I think Matt Nashua is more, or Trinity is more their GM. Nick was
right.
like,
I mean, technically, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the.
so that's my point. Is like Trinity is the head of competitive now. CLG subreddit's not very happy about that, but it's not like the person who led their competitive decision making is leaving. And I also heard that Tafo is taking on a role that is more involved on the competitive side. Your boy Tafo.
Right. Yeah. I heard that too. But Trinity, did I ever see him around the studio? I mean, like, I don't.
You'd recognize
know.
him. He's a tall white guy. He stands out a lot at LCS.
He was there a lot.
Among all the other tall white guys. I'm being sarcastic, but you would recognize him.
Okay, but he was there a lot.
Yes, like every weekend, basically.
Because I saw Nick Allen all the time, but I didn't remember seeing him very much.
Yeah.
That's why I wasn't sure. Okay. Well, maybe they can still make it happen then. I can't imagine a leadership change in the middle of a split makes also having to replace your roster easy, and it's something that people have always struggled with, finding upgrades in the middle of the split or middle of the season, excuse me. So maybe they can do it.
I think they have an import slot, right?
Yeah, they're only using one right now.
Yeah, because it's only PoE. So that I think will help them, is that they could potentially import a top laner.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's doable. I just think it's harder, and given that they couldn't do it last year when they clearly wanted to, between the seasons, between the splits with like worse circumstances on a organizational level, makes me very hesitant to believe that they're actually going to get it done. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they find somebody, but Flame's on a team now, guys. You can't do that anymore.
There's always trades, but I don't think Flame is going to join CLG.
Trades almost never happen in the scene.
Yeah. Anyway, so on the CLG stuff, so yes, I do think CLG is a shadow of itself. I'm disappointed that it did not improve much in the past couple of splits. I do think that it's nice that I think they were the second team to get a dedicated office space or facility? I think they might be.
Well, yeah. I think a couple teams have it.
And people really like their content, or their fans really do. They're calling it Content Age. But I think TL did it first, and then I think CLG announced an open last year. Now there's a ton of teams doing it, but I think it's
like Echo Fox technically had one a long time ago that almost bankrupted.
Oh yeah, but they were that was more like a room in the it wasn't like a dedicated facility. They had like a space in the Twin Galaxies offices.
Yeah, they were trying to like build a LCS stage basically or something.
But I don't think they ever did. It's not like it's very. I just mean TL was the first to build something that was like a dedicated training facility, in my opinion, from what I can tell. CLG followed up. So I think that the org has made some good decisions. It's just hard because, like, let's put it this way. I think the org would be really celebrated if the team was winning right now. It's not like they're lacking in a lot of other places. But it is really disappointing. And I was really critical of them at the end of last year because I just didn't feel like they made enough changes. Like, why would you... I don't know.
I think that's the problem for most fans, though, which I can kind of sympathize with, where it's like, well, I appreciate upping your content, and I appreciate a nice facility, but like, all I really care about if I'm a CLG fan is like giving me a good team, like,
yeah,
I want content, but if I don't get it, like, I'd rather win. If I could trade all those things you just listed for a winning team, I think most fans would be willing to take that trade.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, they only let down the most important part to a fan, which is it's not even like it's not even like they busted on a big play. It wasn't even like they clutch gaming did. Like they made few roster moves and went from 7th to 7th.
I mean, I felt like they continued to bet on a losing formula. They're like, we'll just tweak it. When I wanted to see them throw it out, I thought they should have like blown up the roster. Maybe keep Final Frost.
I think that's partially what fuels the frustration. Is not like they struck out on a vision necessarily, where they're like, this is what we're going to do. It's like it didn't quite come together. People think maybe budget-wise they couldn't swing the kind of money that some of the other top lane imports they wanted were asking for, and then like they kind of fell into this roster, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I can understand that mentality of like they didn't create this team that they thought was really going to work well. They just kind of like fell into this one or something.
Yeah. Yep. So I agree. Octa, do you have other thoughts?
Well, you guys were way more in depth than I know. So
Well, either way,
you brought a good topic at least.
Well, looking here, let's put this though. Looking forward though, it is really interesting to see what's going to happen. A lot of people know, full disclosure, I'm really good friends with Nick Allen. We've known each other since he ran the league site over at IPL, but he was the head of CLG and the link between their bigger organization, right, which was Madison Square Garden. Him being gone, it's really hard to find somebody to hire for that type of position, because you need somebody that knows all the different esports, is really well connected, can handle sponsor relationships, can handle others. And his decision to leave, you have to probably take like a GM or something from another team to try to replace them. I just don't know what they're gonna do. Is there, like, especially with Brian Tran gone, like, I love Tafo, but I don't think Tafo is going to become the head of CLG. And Trinity is not really well favored by the community, so I don't know if he's going to become the head of CLG. It's just like, who do you put in that position?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, man.
He left Glops. He has another job already. Well, he has a job lined up.
Who is this? Nick?
Nick, yeah. Chat was asking if he left or he was fired.
So like, obviously CLG, I when I saw those two announcements, I went to the CLG subreddit to see what their fans were saying, and it was pretty negative. It was just like nothing happened with them, so who cares?
Yeah. I think
I was just gonna ask, like, what was the broader community's feeling about it? Because I don't
think the broader community cared. Nobody else talks about CLG outside the CLG subreddit.
That's fair, I guess.
They've become it's pretty tragic to see, because they used to be, it was like them, Cloud9, and TSM. And then they gave up Peter, and then they didn't continue to win after that first split against TSM and their MSI run, and they just melted away. And even before the MSG deal, they just didn't do much. Like, I don't think the management did a great job following that. Like, it's kind of funny
CLG...
because their path was, you had Kelby running stuff over there, who obviously has been on the show. He's a good friend, full disclosure. Best man at his wedding. He cares about me more than anybody else in the world.
Usually in the player 3 slot.
And invited me to be his +1 to see Avengers over his wife. And I felt like he did a great job at everything except for giving them competitive success. In fact, we make fun of him all the time because the team almost got relegated underneath his leadership. Then you had him leave and new people came in, and those guys were able to find competitive success for about a year and a half, but then just flopped at everything else. I don't think they put out great content. The brand just kind of lingered. You know, all these other teams went off and did really crazy cool stuff, and it felt like CLG just sort of lingered. And then you had the competitive success start to go down the hole again, but then they got the training facility and all that stuff underneath the Madison Square Garden and Nick Allen leadership. So they've just slowly withered away.
I think the last of old CLG died with Zix, honestly. Like the double if, like Kelby leaving and new management coming in kind of hurt. Double if leaving obviously hurt a lot, but it was kind of softened by the fact that they continued to win.
But nobody gave it, even last year when Zix was there, still nobody cared about that team.
Yeah, but I think they still had, you know, maybe it's because I'm biased. I like Zix. I'm decent friends with him, but like I still felt like that team kind of had its identity of like, we're trying to be like, you know, they had good level ones, they got early games, they just fell apart, and everyone always kind of felt like, well, the problem isn't anything other that they don't have enough talent on their roster, you know, like that's how I felt. Zix came on this show and we kind of asked him point blank about it, and he very politically well-handled answer kind of said like, yeah, sometimes our player skill was a problem kind of thing.
Yeah.
He quickly said, you know, it wasn't the only problem, but like on the outside, it looked like this seems to be a well-coached team who all likes each other, and all that's great. It just needs more talent. You just got to get some talent in those doors. And then they kick him, and then it's like, okay, so now your structure is completely different. You have new management, new coaching staff. These players were not the ones who brought you success, and they're losing and not doing well, and then they can't even make turnover. So, like, you feel like you just, like, fell into a bog, and now nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So I think for me, at least as a CLG, not necessarily fan, but someone who enjoyed CLG, like the death of Tony was really like it wasn't the biggest blow they took, but it was definitely for me like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah. I think the failure of Rainover was the thing. I mean, Twitch chat was bringing this up, but I think Rainover flopping last year, that was like their Hail Mary. And whenever that didn't happen, I felt like that was time for them to blow up the roster, and the fact that they didn't, I think, was a big issue.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think going for a player who has failed to be successful for a year and thinking that he's suddenly going to turn it around is, I don't know, putting your faith in the wrong place. But like losing Tony over that as well was like, Jesus, really?
Octa, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to say here at the end?
Well, just thanks for having me on. Next time I'll try to come back with more to say. So.
No, it's all good. Thank you for talking about CLG.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a good one. All right, we got one more caller. Mark's going to go grab him right now. Lost Divine Hero, 8 months in a row. Scrapjack, Mr. Man, 423. Omega Diamond Zinc for 13 months. Schleppard for 15. Rico Suave 86193 for 16 says, keep doing your thing. Love the revealing secret show you got going. Make it longer. All right, well, I'll consider. Soju Ninja for 11 months. And then Darth Epo says, sent 100 bits. Thank you, everyone. Will D1 Thrill. Have you been on the show before?
No, sir. Never.
Okay. I've seen your name a ton in the chat, though.
Yes.
Yes.
I talk a lot.
And thank you for being a sub. I feel like you've been a sub for a long time.
I think 6 months now. Not too long.
I mean, that's pretty good. Good to see you, though. What do you want to talk about? Oh, first off, where are you calling from?
Miami, Florida.
Miami, Florida. I want to go back to Miami so bad. Nothing against St. Louis. Nothing against St. Louis. It was a great time to go visit there, but man, there was a difference. Actually, this is a funny story. I'll give you guys a little leak here about something that's not really relevant or important. So, but it was really funny because
my favorite kind of leaks.
So they had the owners conference in Miami last year, and all the owners were like, "Woo, let's go!" And they put them up in this
the Brodin story.
This nice hotel. No, and they put them up in this nice hotel. And the owners had a great time, and they were all really happy about the fact that they went there, and blah, blah, blah. This year, they're like, okay, yeah, we always hold the conferences, and then they did it again for Oakland. And this year, they're like, all right, we're going to do it in St. Louis because we always held the conference. And people were like, can't we just do it in LA? Why do I have to go all the way out to St. Louis? It's very funny, the difference between St. Louis and Miami when it comes to that stuff. Anyway, hope we get to go back there at some point in the future. What do you want to talk about on the show, though, Will D1 Thrill?
I mostly want to talk about G2 and how I predict they will do at MSI, where I feel as though when they attend MSI and perform that they're going to be they're going to be shook, where a lot of the teams are going to surprise them and they won't do as well as anyone is believing they will do.
All right. Well, that's a good counter example. So why do you think that?
Mostly because I feel as though everyone's on the hype train from Fnatic from last year, thinking, oh, EU can finally somewhat contend, even though they got 3-0'd. And now with G2 assembling this amazing roster, moving Perks down, getting like the best mid laner in probably the LEC and everything else with that. And then I think them doing such a high performance through their first split, but I feel as though everyone's riding it too hard because Perks is only having about 24 games now on stage, I think it is officially, against actual other players. And I feel against when it comes to the talent of actual true ADCs like Teddy for SKT, or when you face other teams, like especially ING with Jackie Love and everything else, I think the mechanical skills that Perks have is going to start getting exposed because he just doesn't have that kind of play time against the true matchups and everything else to throw them off.
Mark, I'll throw this to you. We've had two very opposing takes on this.
I can't wait to see that smug mid laner's face when was that copy pasta about Perks?
Yeah.
Well, so he had a really cool interview where he was European guy's always pretty honest about his thoughts of marksman
pretty blunt,
players.
I guess you should say.
Blunt, sure.
Yeah, and D1 Thrill, can you move your mic a little bit further away because we're getting you both a bit.
I would just say mute because I could hear myself a little bit too.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has been pretty honest about what he says in his thoughts of marksman players and how they're actually not very good. league players overall because they're to put it nicely, their skill set is so hyper specialized on only playing marksman that he feels like they're not very good about handling things that are kind of out of the ordinary. And they talk about when the marksman position changed, it's like these guys can't learn or play anything new because they've been playing 15 champions their whole career. And so he was kind of saying that he feels a lot better than a lot of marksman players, maybe not at being a marksman specifically, but just in terms of his overall skill set and what he's able to do. He said he's had to adjust his mindset a lot about what an AD carry is asked to do, and that was the biggest struggle, but it was not playing against other marksman players. That was the problem. It was like just accepting the role a little bit. That seemed to be a struggle for him. And he kind of thinks that because he has this diversity of skill set that other marksmen are lacking, that when he goes in an international competition and goes against good bot laners, if he played Lucian versus Ezreal 5 times in a series, or Varus versus this and this versus this, then maybe it wouldn't go so well. But he doesn't need to play by that rules because he'll just play Cassio bot, and then who knows Cassio better? This marksman player who's never had to lane against it, or this guy who has had to play 80 champions over the course of his life. And so that's his take on that concern around him. I think that maybe other people can play marksman in a 2v2 straight up standard lane better than him, but he's not going to play by those rules. So there'll be Vlad's bot lane, there'll be Ryzes, there'll be Cassios, there'll be Heimerdingers, there'll be random shit that's going to throw people like Doublelift for a loop and probably cause some problem for them. And I got to admit, I kind of see where he's coming from, as well as the fact that that team has a lot of threats on it, and so you're not just guaranteed. Maybe you can play something safe and just farm out a lane and don't need to carry because there's other people on that team. If they really relied on this dude who just made a role swap to be a big threat, maybe I would get it a little bit more, but I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm worried about the sub. I think the sub for me is a bigger concern than perks.
You mean for their success or for...
Yes, for their long-term success of the tournament, Mickey X really can't play and his wrist hurts, and
100%.
Yeah, they've already said that they value allowing Mickey X to heal up. So I'm way more concerned about how that bot lane fares because they're using a sub bot laner or support rather than perks as a player.
It's unfortunate though. I mean, it's unfortunate anytime a player goes out because you feel for the player and you feel for the team. Before a big international event like this, it's also a little unfortunate because there will always be an asterisk, right? Like if TL outperforms G2 at this event, it's gonna be like, well, they're gonna sub. That's why. It's kind of an awkward situation overall. Wish that wasn't the case. Do you have other thoughts, Wildy One Thrill?
Yeah, especially I really agree with Mark's point, especially with subbing someone in so late is obviously going to be red flags. But the other thing I wanted to then add on to it, because obviously they're not going to just be playing IG and SKT, they'll be playing the group stage and TL. But don't you think also against these more world-renowned teams like IG and SKT, it's going to be more of a problem because, at least in my opinion, I feel like IG has a stronger matchup in pretty much every lane. And don't you think it's going to be more of a problem if, let's say, IG 3 bans perks, so then he's forced to play that marksman to be that uncomfortable, and then you have people like Ning just basically disrupting it even more, making that lane worse to really expose G2's weakness?
Yeah, I haven't 100% finished all my prep on the major teams. Or the major region teams. I haven't watched every single series I want to watch by them yet, and maybe this is a little relying on the fact they won Worlds, but I think IG for me is probably one of the tournament favorites. And so
it's hard not to have them be that way.
What's that?
It's hard for them not to be the tournament favorites.
Right. Apparently they didn't have a great split in China overall, with regular season stuff. So, I need to do a little bit more research into how good they actually look, but that would be my pick for who I think is going to win the tournament without having completed my research. SKT, from what I saw, they beat Griffin, but a lot of that felt like Griffin just being dumb and stubborn and choking, and they had a really tough time in semis, and then that was kind of felt like it was more Griffin's loss than SKT's win, so I'm a little worried about SKT being a super major threat. But yeah, I think G2 will get probably exposed low by IG. You can say exposed, or you can just say lose to a better team, however you want to phrase it. But like, I think that would be one of the matchups that they'll struggle with. But that's not really a disservice to G2 to say like, oh, you're gonna lose to IG. It's like, well, they can probably still beat Team Liquid. They can beat all the wildcard teams. Maybe give SKT a run for their money. Beat Flash Wolves pretty easily. So
Yeah.
But I actually don't believe that you are obviously in a biased opinion, but I don't think G2, even based off of their performance in the LEC this year, I don't think confidently that I would say they could beat Team Liquid, where I think Team Liquid actually still has the upper hand, because I feel as though, especially with the new tank meta coming in, which is more of what TL is known for putting impact on that tank and just letting him frontline and having the peel for Doublelift, who I think Doublelift and Core JJ are now, especially with the sub, are just gonna shit on basically the G2 bot lane, and then that's gonna draw jungle pressure and allow Xmithy to now go mid lane, where Caps obviously I think is a better mid laner than Jensen, and then also apply more pressure to help with impact top lane.
By the way,
So
really
I actually-
quickly. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just think TL could actually either win against G2 both times, or can at least go even in the series against them.
Mark, I do want to correct you, just because I was thinking back. I
Oh,
think
yeah?
I believe
You came up with this
SKT.
one?
I think SKT 3-0'd Kingzone. I think you misspoke.
Oh, thank you, Encyclopedia Travis Gafford.
Yeah, I was. You said that, and I was trying to play it out in my mind. I remembered it was a 3-0.
Yeah, do you remember how those games went?
I mean, I remember it was a stomp.
Thanks, Twitch chat. I appreciate you correcting my mistake, and Travis, I appreciate you.
Sorry,
all the glory.
just what Will D1 Thrill, sum up that last bit one more time.
Just basically, I'm saying that, especially with the sub in, that Liquid is now, I think, the favorites in the G2 games against the two. And I feel as though the jungle is now going to be drawn and forced to help out the bot lane more, especially against such a powerhouse person like Doublelift and Core JJ, which are, in my opinion, could be top 3 in the world for duo bot lane.
Top 3 in the world is a strong statement, but
I think for me the problem for like that line of logic for me, I think there is a world where the bot lane Doublelift just being a better marksman player than Perkz outright. You know, if Perkz doesn't have all these tricky picks that everyone's kind of talking about, like if he really doesn't have that many that he can get banned out and then forced to play normal stuff, and then Doublelift's a better marksman player and you have this problem in support, even if that happens, you're still probably in trouble in mid and top lane. You're still outskilled there. And Jankos versus Smithy, I feel like they're actually somewhat similar players. Like for the most part, pretty consistently good. Sometimes have like turbo int games that look really bad, but do work very well in like a more supportive jungly role. And so the question is like, even if you're right and this bot lane is a mismatch in TL's favor, does that actually make TL a favorite when they're probably losing their solo lanes and your jungler is similar? Like that's like a tough sell to me to say like now they're gonna smash not even smash, but like be favorites against G2 just because now they're winning one lane pretty well.
well, I guess we'll have to find out hopefully in not too long, but time will tell. Will, do you want to throw any final thoughts? Anything you want to
I just have one final question, if I could.
say? As long as we can make it a quick one.
All right. How come Mark didn't get to go to the endgame party?
To the end game party? You could
Yeah,
ask
to go watch
Kelby.
it all together.
He invited me.
Okay.
So if people didn't see, I was at Endgame with Kelby, and then Kobe came.
It was Kobe too, right?
Well, yeah. So here's what happened.
So here's what happened. A lot of people ended up going to this.
Kelby's company invited, Kelby's company went to see Endgame. They rented out a theater. Kelby invited me as his +1. On the day of, Kobe asked if I wanted to see Endgame that day. So I reached out to Yoni, who works at the company, and said, hey, do you guys have an extra ticket? Maybe just sitting around. And they said yes. And then I didn't know, but because Ovly works with that company too sometimes, Ovly got invited, and she invited Captain Flowers as a +1. So that was not my show to run. Otherwise, I would have invited Mark. Mark's invited to my birthday party. In fact, Mark might be invited to all 3 of my birthday parties.
What, you have birthday? Wow, I haven't heard anything about this yet. It sounds like some PR bullshit to say to the public.
Sounds fishy.
You don't.
So I don't
follow
think
up
you
with.
can. You might not be able to make it to my. Actually, it might be after. So my birthday is on the 19th, which is also the day of finals. But I don't know if it's the 19th in Taiwan or if it's in the 19th in the US. So you might either be done or about to cast, or not cast, but analyst desk. And so I'm going to do like a dinner that night. But then Memorial Day weekend, I'm doing a really big thing where we're getting a big space somewhere. I've got some friends helping me with it. We're going to invite like everyone, all the LCS people. It's going to be this mega blast thing. And then I'm going to try to do something smaller where we just like rent a place for the weekend and do some gaming, which I think is something you were trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Are you listening to anything I just said?
No, you started talking about your birthday plans. I just spaced out.
Will D1 thanks so much for calling.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good one. All right, that's the show. Mark, you want to say anything?
What were you saying?
Yuna, if you're listening to this, you can buzz me on the front panel. Mark, what do you want? You want to just close out the show?
Do we want to talk about the walkout / Game of Thrones? Either of those 2 big topics left?
Well, we don't. I don't want to talk about Game of Thrones.
Well, then I don't want to
spoilers.
talk to you at all.
Hey everyone, this has been Hotline League episode.
You don't want to talk about the walkout? You have any special thoughts?
Well, okay. My thoughts on the walkout are this: 1, I'm excited to hear that some people at Riot are talking about video game workers' rights, because I think that the video game industry in general, I mean, this year alone, we've heard a ton of crazy stories about crunch and people using contractors and people working 100-hour weeks. Epic had this big conversation about them recently. And Blizzard had these layoffs and all this stuff. So I think video game folks, people working in this industry, are getting fucked. And I'm happy to see conversation about this, because it's, for those that don't know, there's a Riot is trying to prevent 2 people who are suing the company around the diversity issues and failures that Riot had in the past. Riot is trying to force it to arbitration, which means you aren't allowed to sue. Instead, you have to go usually to a, I don't know in this case, but usually it's like Riot picks a person who will moderate the conversation and help you come to a decision. So they avoid the lawsuit. It's just sort of like, oh, we went to third-party arbitration. So anyway, it's kind of a, usually that type of thing does not favor the person who wants to have the lawsuit in the first place. So there's a conversation where some people at Riot, and there's apparently a big email chain that's going, or thread going around internally, where a lot of the people want to organize a walkout protesting this situation. The only thing I would say is that Kotaku wrote a follow-up piece to the Waypoint piece. Waypoint, just part of Vice, wrote the original, where Kotaku was kind of hinting at the idea of like, we don't really know if this is a big group of people, like if it's a ton of people at Riot who are thinking about this, or if it's like a smaller group of people. We don't really have the scope of how many people would walk out. So that's my only concern, is that like I don't know how real this story is, if it's like 10 or 15 people that would walk out that day, or if it's the entire company. I do get the feeling though that morale at that company for some people is pretty low, and in general, look, it's been 7 or 8 months since all that stuff came out. I have not been particularly impressed by anything that Riot has done since then. It doesn't seem like there were any high-level departures, which is usually the case whenever you hear about company culture being pretty fucked up. And on the esports side, they've done very little to address any kind of diversity issues. I don't know. I hope that things get better. I don't know if you have an opinion, Mark.
No, I actually think you covered some of my opinions on it. pretty well. So I actually gotta throw out a big agree, I
Yeah.
guess. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Ever since you said the thing, you didn't pay attention when I was talking about the birthday things I was trying to do with you. It pretty much drained me of all the energy and hype and excitement. And
I'm sorry, Travis.
it's okay. I just, you know,
I'm gonna make.
growing
time
up,
for
I
all
didn't
you-
have that many friends in school, and you know, I think there was a point in my time as an adult where I thought, okay, well, I have friends now, and sometimes I'm just reminded, you know, that some things never really change. Anyway, that's been Hotline League episode 73, everyone. Really appreciate you all watching. I'm going over to Vietnam on Thursday. Mark and I are going to try to keep doing these episodes. Never know what the internet's going to be like. Never know what the conditions are going to be like. And hopefully we can figure that out soon.
Are you?
Shout
I
out to
assume
Damien
if-
Estrada in the chat, by the way, who's trying to get my attention.
Yeah. He was saying he makes great content. Do you think we're leaning probably towards a group stage? If we're gonna double up somewhere, most likely regular group stage.
Yeah, we'd probably do 2 during group stage. Maybe one like.
Because you'll be in Nam then, right? But that'll be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there for 2 weeks, and then I'm not going to Taiwan. So sorry, somebody asked for a Taiwan meetup. I'm not going to be in Taiwan, unfortunately. So, yeah.
All right, so then we'll probably do 2, assuming your internet's fine there. Probably do 2 during group stage. 'Cause that should be when there's the most hype because everything's crazy.
And I haven't told Brodin this, but I rented us a hotel room that has 2 bedrooms, so he can help me produce it.
Damn.
Yeah,
Let's go.
it was cheaper than having 2 separate rooms.
Don't say that. Just like when you got me that giant suite in Vegas, it was 100% because you balled out for me.
I mean, I extended your suite. That
You
was
did.
actually balling out for you.
Yeah, you did. Okay, that's fair.
And now the cat's here, so it's time to go.
He showed up just in time, buddy. Hello.
Do you have anything you want to plug here at the end?
Nyoko, say hello. Say hello to the camera.
Yuna's in my living room. She's desperately waiting for me to go get dinner with her, so.
Hello. Woo, woo, woo.
Right.
I don't really have anything to plug. I'm hoping that I don't die in the next 4 days of how miserable my schedule has been and will continue to be.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to be in Vietnam, everyone. Hopefully it doesn't rain too much and I don't drown. I love you all. Thanks for watching. Sorry we had some issues this episode. And thanks to all the subs. Did anybody sub and I forgot? Oh, Scott B. Johnson 91. Thank you so much. This is your, if you haven't subbed yet, this is your chance to sub. Support me as I go to Vietnam. This has been the show.
Thanks, everybody.